Nima is late.
Yeah. Okay. Drink water.
We'll begin with the Heart Sutra in English on page 2. Thus I have heard. At one time, the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of Vulture Peak Mountain with a great gathering of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the samadhi of the many aspects of phenomena called profound appearance. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, saw the 5 skandhas in their natural emptiness. And through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son of the lineage train who wishes to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva answered the Venerable Shariputra with these words. Shariputra, those men and women of the lineage who wish to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look at it like this. The 5 skandhas should be seen purely in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form also is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, and having no characteristics, they are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure, they neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no phenomenon. There is no quality of sight and so on until no quality of mind and no quality of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance and so on up to no old age and death and no exhaustion of old age and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no ending, and no path. No wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide by means of the profound perfection of wisdom. And since their minds have no obscurations, they have no fear. Transcending falsity, they attain nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the 3 times have relied upon the perfection of wisdom and have become true and complete Buddhas of unsurpassable, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the profound perfection of wisdom, the mantra of insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for it is not deceptive. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Teata om gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhisoha. Shariputra, this is how a bodhisattva mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and said to the bodhisattva noble Avalokiteshvara that he had spoken well. Well done, O son of the lineage, it is so. O son of the lineage, since it is just so, the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva and the entire gathering, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, suras, and Gandharvas, rejoice and praise the words of the Blessed Lord. Continue with the short Madonna offering, page 16. Swaji Bhuti Jetsun Mama Tamba Jena Je Chuga Kala Jeze Jeda Zabe Buje Demana Zaje Jede Jabava Toso Yedam Guru Rena Mera Lagane Yatayame. Continue with the refuge prayer on page 22. Sanjay Chana Soje Chana La Janjo Pardo Dane Jasoji Dage Chuje Jibe Sonani Rala Benjire Sanjay Ruparasho Sanjay Chana Soje Chana La Janjo Pardo Dane Jasoji Dage Chuje Jibe Sonani Rala Benjire Sanjay Ruparasho Sanje Chena Soje Chana La Janjo Pardo Dane Jasoji Dage Chuje Jibe Sonani Rala Benjire Sanjay Ruparasho.
아무도 가지 쉬어야 상대 자유 측제는 저자 투바 자와 되네 나서네 봐자 냠바샤라 춘자시 메돌라서 보마자 야다서 jambai 시에서 대가를 차례 되는 나가지 저자 투바 자와 자스 저바 거데 저자세 저바 거 저바들이 다나주 진소 파지 그런서 저바세 저베 파지니세 다즈베 파지게 나네 저베 벌도 쳔바 세야다 저베 파지게 나네 세야 그래야 도스 저베 벌도 쳔바 세야데 산지 결마도 요마레 얘나 저베 벌도 쳔면 나네 라발라니 내가니 나타제에 대해서 제가 다들 저자세 다도 저자 뒤바 자와자스네 동몽을 해봐야 보시. 제빈나야 보시. 거래에서도 바다 니디도신 동몽을 제빈나야 보시. 거래에서 제빈나야 보시 밑에네 아니라네게 강 나래 조제 된 ane yabu tuba chewes. Iye zeba yabu jimena, zebe nana yabu jimena, ane tuba chewen, tuba de bagi shibagi pendo chimbo yubi ngiba, meba dine chires, de to dine chungo yasare.
So we are repeating once again the verse that we, verse 20, that which we discussed in our last discussion sessions, which is endure patiently, seek learning, endure in the forest, make an effort to stabilize attention, meditate on fondness and so on. So this, right from the beginning of the verse, the first line emphasizes on the practice of patience, and the patience here, the practice of practicing patience of perfection and the perfection of patience are different in quality. In other words, the perfection of patience is possessed only by someone who is enlightened, and practicing patience of perfection can be someone who is enthusiastically, unmistakably engaging in the practice of patience, according to the teachings of the Buddha himself. And so here now, it really talks about, in the commentary, it talks about how important it is to practice patience, first of all. Not only just one listening to the teachings and just by reading the text itself, but one need to practice it, meditate it, contemplate it, meditate, and use it practically. And it is through this one can only perfect one's practice of patience. It's just mere reading and listening to the teachings. It's not ample to have a realization of patience. So therefore, reading and contemplating and meditating will enables one to perfect one's practice of patience. So because without the patience, without having a proper practice of patience, and practice of Dharma will not develop. Practice of Dharma, the actual practice of Dharma will not take place. So therefore, take this practice as a practice of patience very seriously as a Dharma practitioner.
다른데 리오진 리오 구바들은 리오 구바 아즈빌리오 대체 단데 리오 구바 아즈빌리오 누가는 대 가르송도나 달아 토마 리시가 잡았자고 달아 토마 리시가 잡았자고 달아 다 거네야 춘진고 뭐지마 소니 근데 달아다 춘진나네 저도 달아 토마 리시가 잡았자고 토마 리시가 내가 그치서 그러다 토마 내가 지실이야 내가 지르려야 자반나야 뭐지 자바야 뭐지 다시스 달아 토마 리시가 잡았자고 단데 준세 가르송나 mazepane choane swemene pes zepata mazepa seta gawarwa zepata mazepa sambo amarodo tene chaleya mazepa shuchiandwa zepata shuchuandwa kange kare cheone sodole kange cheone tene yamuso zechuandwa mazepa shuchiandwa chata mazepane choane swemene peseta yabojo zemato ina sodole kange chene choaji 지금까지 아니 제세면도 봐. 세면이 비례서 telea donne 지금도 봐. 세면이 비치르스. 근데 이서 자, 쭉 가려고나 퇴발을 써봐라. 저번 양을 주의해서. 제가 나는 엠바 나도 내발라 나는 지야 된다 야고 튜브래 튜바 야고 지와라 들에 동네 문이 지야고래 튜바 집에 그래 소들 강에 문이 용거래스 와 동네 집에 배 저거 저투가 뭐 주래스 제가 소소 야고 저 마토이나 또 강에 집에 그래 셈바 생슈차 아니 쇼한테 제대 와이나 튜바데 아니 배 가라서 그랬지 차통하는 거지 제가 제도고 말했더니 제가 야고지 제발라 강에 먹고 돈을 제거래 강에 먹고 돈을 제거 이거서 그 강에 돈을 제도야겠네 뭐래 제비 시야 가지고 알아서 소화되는 거 도마를 주서 가지고 제대로 되죠.
So here it says the practice of patience is required right from the beginning of one's practice of Dharma. It says it emphasizes every teachings that you may find the importance of practice or patience. And so here in this text, in the commentary, the practice of patience is taught in the chapter 9. So it says,
What page are you on?
I'm not looking at Rinpoche,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just listening to him, yeah, because I just can't, it's just all up and down, up and down. Just so here, patience is something that is opponent of the impatience, which is clear, which we all know that. Impatience is something that becomes an impediment for one's practice of Dharma. Knowing that, impatience must be eradicated by means of engaging in the proper practice of patience. Because without having a proper practice of patience, simply one will not be able to engage in the proper practice of Dharma, period. Because one will not be able to handle even a minor incident of discomforts without patience. One become uncontrollable and then become demoralized. So it's a very, very important, because in the text, the root text we already read earlier during about the text, it says, endure patiently, seek learning, and dwell in the forest. See, listen to the teachings. While listening to the teachings one must listen to the teachings patiently. One must read or contemplate on the meaning of the teachings patiently. One must meditate patiently. If one is able to do this, then one is ready, one is prepared to dwell in any places, including forests and so on, that we talked about in the text itself. And otherwise, without having this patience, even if you may have received some teachings, listen to the teachings, there's some kind of some level of contemplations and so on. Without the patience, when one come across with a very instant, the minor instance of this discomforts will demoralize and will not be able to, recall the teachings that we have received. That is all happening because of our impatience, not having that patience. Yeah. So if you look at the chapter 9, then you will find the details in that one. Let's see.
갱도 가신도에
여기는 더 교부 다가난데 그 지진 교교인데 되면 건데 도진데 뭐 수도 안 되는 비시럽게 한데 뭐 지시야.
아니 저기 이러면
민도 가가.
라고 진짜.
이 가서 저선 때문에 이제 난 가지 태워 먹어도
알았어.
그래 되는 게 되게 차단이 돼. 기사에 맞아야 돼. 이게 제가 가시.
무슨 좋았으면 무슨 봤어야 돼. 아무도 변을 찾잖아. 말아도 내려가다 가있는 야고 장내 집에나 그런 일 내나 상황에 강에 지게 태우래. 소설 내나 상황에 강에 지게 태우는데 대강에 때려 돈을 제도야 저도야기 저세 제도야기 소설이야. 니가 지고 올 때, 저세 제mat나 내나서 되게 재미있어서 강화로는 지금 떨어졌는데 야고지 제도고 말아. 양 그래야 라니 신비 신다기 소설이야. 양 졸아줘야 뭐 차야래요. 같이 있는 용거래. 지고서 저항을 받는 것도 안에 용거와 되네 용비까래 때 명예대 소속에 제라는 체가 집에 때려 제도고야지 제도고야지 걸마도 되면은 야 바로 보라니야. 거기서 저항이 뭐지 땅유비까래 대왕이라니 제 로전한테 두셨다 나 생각 쇼하면서 들었지만은 여러분이 아버지 자도 말아. 대나시게 양가서 그래. 저서도 뭐게 레드나 왕게 나 봐셔야 되네 유명해 되지래. 그래서 드네 이동서 돈에 소설로는 아버지 차와나 아니 내나서 나요베카레 때려 돈에 제 telea zesentine loyo mentine chia shengra ne ja me batena tawina te telea donle chene sosoge loyo toyama so yaboche uya juro ta tena shige kada de kare soso ke ne martene tabata tayiga ko bon kanji dugina ko ji nadar chene nale chene dugure ma to yamara chena nale chebala kaan nane chiya, kaan rane ki chiya kumaya, tendade suya boji, mwane tuwa yako chiya rwa. Tuwa chibi jurung nane mwanzo lojon chiri, ancha tanda leta inanda, tuzi chini lo mambo jayo bukira, doni mambo chiya kukudwa. Chata kwa tene mambo chi, doni chiya diko zubad kwa rwa. Muzepa chadna, ante doni chiya tuku yama, chata muzepa ne, chowa ne suya mani pi chira rizki tere. 야고지 zoma ina sosol이야. 강에 태우고 그래. 좋아지고 그래. 근데 야고지 좀 많이 배차는데. 근데 투셔도래. 서울. 이제 저 근데 그들 라니 강안에 제가 투발로서 봤다 소리야. 야고지 좀 투가 쳐서 봐. 나에 거치래. 저거 야고지 메나. 근데 투발로서 좀 투발로서 봐. 좀 그랬대. 냠로 그래. 소화되는 거.
So patience is very, very important because whenever we engage in the practice, there are many more obstacles, many more unfavorable conditions than the favorable conditions. So if one has this practice of patience, once the condition that are adverse conditions of one's practice can be handled smoothly, and one will be one can carry on one's practice of Dharma. For instance, if one when one is engaging in when one is endeavoring in one's practice of Dharma, if one becomes ill, and the way we handle this illness it's differ based on how you actually look at that illness. Even though that two individuals may have the same intensity of the pain or the illness, but the way in which they handle this illness makes big difference. And one may have less, intensity of pain. Although there's the same intensity, but the one may have has more kind of um, uh, one may have more pain than others, and one may have more difficulty of handling that pain than other, though that the pains are in the same level. It's all depend. It's all due to one's practice of patience. So, and then also one need to have a practice of patience. Important is because when someone inflict harm upon oneself, harm upon one, in other words, either physically or verbally or mentally, one is able to handle that kind of harm which has been inflicted by others. Because if one is not ready for that, if one is not actually practice patience, and this will become an obstacle for one's practice. In fact, if one lacks the practice of patience, this will increase one's agitations, angers, and so on. And in turn, this will degenerate one's practice. And even if one has taken some vows, such as bodhisattva's vows and so on, will be degenerated. So it's very important to have this patience. It's a very important. It's a key practice among all the practice of Dharma. So, if one has this practice of patience, then one listen to the teachings, receive all those instructions, the repeat instructions of the patients, and then whatever the Dharma practice one may undertake, based on this patience, one can be in any place, such as being in a place isolated, or one will be able to adopt this solitude retreat. And this is how we practice ourselves and embark on the spiritual path, which will then lead oneself to the state of enlightenment. Because state of enlightenment or the liberation cannot come into being just by reading, listening to the teachings. It requires a practice. The practice is the key to all. Out of all, practice of patience is something that's very, very important. That's all.
Tiene que ser muy amoroso, ta zuba na je zuba de na si ye na song lo jin do do ne ta ne je zuba se ji chera ne mar se be zuba se ji ya yin ji ne ba ji ba la chema na be zuba se ji o da na se be ye na de de mo da song song do je ta de de mo no le ya zuba to na ne je ki chi mo le zuba na ne je ta zuba o chun ta zuba o chun zubin na o chun na and they going to buy the Shujaya, Jadam, and then on Carlos Sunduna, Jadam, Thomas Zubajo, the kitchen with jet. Those Zubaya with the Mena, and then to wait on the Kalim opportunity, the Donny Jet to Mares, to wait if Kaya, Kalim Theatre, Donny Majena, and so Tibal Jiatin, Chaton, Namro, Tushon Res at Digit. That Zinibat, the Carlina. Tubadan Madampinas, Sunday Tadan, Numan number of Jones touch on me days ago. That Tubaya would you mena, Tubaya would you madina, Sunday tap dance. That Tubaya would you mena so, and just Sunday would you hagi, you hagi that he to the Ago Marva. Jazana Juno, Sonjuana, Larutan Sonua, Tuba maybe one by the Lado Talent Tabantas. 자랑도 라도들 samata laba 주인자 되는 라바드나 제 저거 명예서 라바도도 자상들 용어로 한거 주의사 Then China Tali and the Marwacham, Tuba maybe Gomba to Ladu Talan Taman Tuba the kitchen wings, Tuba the Medipin, Tuba Yapuji Mena, and the Sunday Tana. Medeva Chavres, Relava, Sunday Yapujuana, Shane Yapujuana, and they go Golu Gontan, that's what they call them Mangashi to Yapuchi, Tuba Java. Till they do Tuba the Medipin, Sunday Tatans. Nyoma number of Jumita Majide, and Numa number of Jumita, Numa Pombe Pomba, and the Daming of the Vishera of so, and the Rangule Jewel, the Jewel, and Kanaka Nani Jewu, so the Tolia, so Tedangi, and the Lemiki, Mani to Yabuchi, Tuba Majena, and the Yumara, Penamaranto, Tendi. Chito with the Tolia, Lega, Lachu Jola, Lepello Mombo, and then began that to us, Lolo Jute, and then be in Mosoya, turning over Woodwa. Then the Zode, cover the things you come on to have it in time, some data, share us about the so, Ramanjoli Java, then I could say the Aggie, money, Chibaya with Jenny, taking the Nala with Majena, and then you took a mirror, Jazam. Tuba the Medipin, Sadiji Tatan, Yumu, number of joy, Tata Mishi days, Tuba the Mena, Stranger Sunday, Yumare, Numu, Pambe, Pamba, Guadeta, and the tea, train jackie, planting the Malas, what the Zina, and the Ramujil Jet of Mares.
So we already discussed on the patients, three kinds of patients during our last sessions. The patients accepting the pains voluntarily, pains or suffering voluntarily, the first, and then second is the patients of not retaliating towards someone who inflict harm upon oneself, and then patients reflecting on dharma. So those are the three kinds of patients, and all those practice, the patients who practice must practice if one has a genuine motivation to engage in the practice of the Dharma. Because without having this practice of patience, as we talked about earlier, even to listen to the teachings, one will not be able to, in other words, one will not be able to listen to the teachings, peacefully and wholeheartedly due to the lack of patience. And if one is unable to listen to the teachings wholeheartedly, then suddenly one will not be able to contemplate on the meaning of these teachings unmistakenly. So therefore, this is how the patience really become a very, very important practice for all of us as a practice of Dharma practitioners. And then it says, if lack patience, one will not be able to pay genuine attention to the teaching that's given by the teacher, and without listening to the proper teachings given by the qualified teacher, then suddenly one will not be able to engage in the practice of meditations, particularly this single point of meditation or the shamatha. It's not possible. So therefore, first, the patient is required while one is listening to the teachings, patient requires when one is contemplating, and patient requires when one is meditating. So here it says, we find in the text, it says, without having a hearing or without having listened to the teachings of the Dharma with patience and try to meditate, is someone without having a limb is trying to climb a cliff. this is what it is. We will not be able to gain anything. So, so therefore, one must listen to the teachings with patiently and receive all the teachings from the qualified teachers, follow the instructions in a proper order, unmistaken and complete. Without having this practice of concentrations and wisdom realizing emptiness is not possible. And all this requires the proper practice, proper order, and complete and proper order and complete. Just as we in our convention world, where someone who wants to become someone, or any profession, it requires qualifications. To gain this qualification, someone has to go through all this process of learning, beginning from scratch all the way until they gain the degree, until they obtain degree. So, in the same manner, to perfect one's practice must be done on a proper order and unmistaken and complete. So this again here depends on the teacher who is giving the teachings, and it should have a proper qualification to give teachings to someone. So, in brief, without having a proper listening to the teachings, one will not be able to attain. One will not be able to achieve single-pointed meditations or the shamatha, without which one will not be able to gain wisdom realizing emptiness, which then one will not be able to have will not be able to actualize cessation from sufferings. And similarly, because one will not be able to have a path that leads to the cessations.
저도 마주나 시기 말에 마시는 뭐가 나는 저다 게뭐도 저는 그 가다 가나는 제가 있는데 동물에 나는 제가 보지 시바 제가 그래서 대시바도 뭐 투바야 제가 그래서 투바 제가 그 유령 나는 감이 못 제가 근데 감이 또 서로 돈을 제가 제가 내도 아마 제가 제가 오세 이 소야 그 주제도 세사
So here, when we are practicing Dharma, as we talked about earlier, we need to listen to the teachings of the Dharma first before one engages in the practice. Because without listening to the teachings of Dharma, simply there's no way that one can engage in the practice. But to listen to the teachings of the Dharma, we need to make a lot of sacrifices. For instance, sometime when the teacher, very qualified teachers, authentic teacher, who may be giving a teaching somewhere very far from the place where one is staying, where one lives, then one should sacrifice all that and make, try one's best to be that place to receive the teachings, which also requires patience here. And sometime again here, when one is receiving the teachings from the teacher, one will have a difficulty of comprehending the teaching that is given by the teacher, or understanding the teachings, the meaning of the teachings given by the teachings, which also requires patience. It's not only us. In the past, all those great beings, accomplished beings, who had, if you look at their narratives, you will find that they have a very difficulty understanding what their teachers were teaching. But it is due to their patience, keep listening, studying, reading. They were able to, they understood all the meanings, the instructions given by the teacher, and finally they become an accomplished practitioner. For instance, Milarepa, who sacrificed a lot, following whatever his teacher Marpa has instructed him, and went through an arduous journey, such spiritual journeys, sacrificing everything, and had a lot of hardships, but it is due to because of his patience, he was able to, he was able to perfect all the teachings. The teachings are given by his teacher, and become a great, accomplished master. And similarly, if you look at the Lama Tsongkhapa's narratives, you will find that he traveled from one place to another, months and months, on foot, not knowing where he will end up tonight. And, it is because of his patience, perseverance, he was able to, receive the teachings from numerous teachers, both Sutra and Tantra. And finally, he was able to go to the retreat by himself and had not only a vision, but had a meeting as a person, meeting to person with Manjushri, and is able to receive the teaching from him as well. And then again, as we all know, we are very familiar with the Buddha's story. The Buddha has sacrificed everything, because he left all his luxurious lifestyle as a princely existence, left behind, and become a bhikshu. And not only that, then he has gone through 6 years of hardships, and also all Without patience, and those kind of practice wouldn't not have possible. So so here now in brief, listening to the teachings requires a patience. Without patience, one will not be able to listen to the teachings. Without listening to the teachings, one will not be able to practice shamatha. Without practicing shamatha, one will not be able to gain wisdom realizing emptiness. And without wisdom realizing emptiness, and one's achievement of liberation in state of enlightenment become impossible.
단지 자와제나 주자 피바 자와자세 자와 상지 과단체 다드니마 니바드 가르치는 데와는 시에서 세장 리머 쮸비 냐버를 샤카와 쮸데스 제가 단지 가르치는 시에서 세장스 다 트벌 제니 소소가 간 나서 와야 돼 야고 시바이나 양스 시차와이나 시에서 세장도 시차와이나 양 리머 쮸비스 리머 쮸 리머 세야 디마 좁아서야 되다. 무슨 거 지게다 좁아들래. 저 차장라로 칼란라 사셔된다 주 안에 또또도 대단히 일하면 거지. 대단히 되어야 된다기 좁아되게 안에 냐바샤 그래 가버려서 디마를 좁이 냐바샤가 좁대서 냐바샤 상부 소소로 되 자자 자다마 강 공자가 유익등이야 샤도가 죽고 말해 어디 죽고 그래 제가 때려 샤도고 말해 또 샤도고 뭐고 제가 리마를 줘봐서 리마서야 돼 지지도 밖에 공자가 유익하느냐 로 마셔 제대로 가서 가서 리를 먹고 저도 선보 맞아 로한테 리를 먹을 걸 상한다 선보는 리를 주터에 상하고 tanto 뭐도 추스 맞다 지 그들이 가르쳐 그래 샤타원을 어쩌다 terba mumpuni ane shadu kumandwa tendu nyamba shakawa nyotes shiso zenjang dimar jibe nyamba shakawa nyotes tewi chalzadwa junze tenda yinso tsa ane teni nasne bacha nasne kyo junze tuzu kandwa chakanta tsawa jena zoja tiba teni nasne bacha nasne gwed karana nasne zat nyamba tibi kishara chazan emba matene tananaje ane kasakara jugutu chedewa tege ene tendega jiba cheba tege ane tseje nyabashi najata yonkaware yeso.
Even though one may have listened to the teachings and one may have understood the teachings, the meaning of the teachings or the instructions, the repeat instructions given by the teacher. If one practice leisurely, sometime think about the teachings, sometime going out, and sometime indulging in a gossip and socializing, and that kind of practice will not allow oneself to become a real practitioner. In other words, someone who is able to maintain meditative equipoise, Nyamprasha in Tibetan, which is translated as a meditative equipoise. So Nyamprasha, I don't know how close this translation may be, but Nyamprasha in Tibetan term Nyamprasha, which means someone who is able to place his or her mind on object of meditation 100% without losing it. That is what is meant by Nyamprasha, which is translated in English most of the meditative equipoise. And so in order to have this quality, then one should refrain from socializing, one should refrain from engaging in meaningless chatter, or one should refrain from thinking about something that is meaningless, something that is non-dharma, in other words, because it is for this purpose. It says once you have patiently listened to the teachings and able to understood all these teachings, and one should not lose the enthusiasm of engaging in the practice. And then one should, adopt solitary retreat, or one should be in the forest, because without maintaining without maintaining such practice of choosing a proper place to practice, one will always be distracted, and one will not be able to maintain one's meditative equipoise of whatever the meditation that one may have chosen.
Tenaji Janju saying that Sajata Sanjusa Dagu in Yambi Senchivaje, Penisu Kuna Ramjula Nanashu Yundiach, Kadichia Swan and Ramjulia, Janju said to my batch, Jayungoro. They are the condition then Namashan Yungo Jedwa. Then I told you to be sharing in the Tombadi Toala, Tanju Da Quini, and then the Jessa Tangi. 20,000 ke maro oni mune tola tele pe konti yurim tene tene tombo 20 to ani rimbe tele mete to the namle chene tene no so to ju ngoro acha tende ide tende ju wala ani nyamba shawles cha nyamba shawala ani yinwa pangles oro cha mo dana ju Shinada Haton, Sayumuda Jazan, Shinada Haton, Tokorea, and Chimada Goba with the Shemudua. Jazada Yinwas, so that Goba Kunale, Jazan Lodi Yutilia, Danja, Namatwachin, and Yajana Yana Yovana, Yinruina, and Telemu Puni, Yapochi, in that Yuntu Jazan. Iwa Chavala, Nutun Pe. Senyaba Java Muju Sada. Chazan, Solo Kang Goya Yutelia, Lord Sage to Tematoche, and to the Lord Kazakan by the English Wadaina, and Pare Kang Goja Yutelia, Sage the Yamajo to Mare, Sage the Yamajo Matuna, and the Kanda Kain Te Sede Ramujulia, the Tobilet to Mare, Jaju Sena, Ramujua might be Jet to Marilla. Don't to be sharing, don't want to be sharing around Julia. Draw my jet to Mari, may do in a draw my jet to Maris. Chazam, you want the short, you want the short Java Yota, you want short Java Mutempe, Mutebe, and Senyaba Jamato Yota, Nabashara Today, Nabashara, Besiccio, Savajana, then never, Nabashara, 2 years. So therefore
in the text it says one must put in effort in adopting meditative equipoise. So it says for that then one requires consistent practice of whatever meditation or the practice one is doing. It should be very, very consistent, without which it's not possible for one to gain the realizations, one to perfect one's practice or whatever meditation one may be doing. So therefore, we find in the third principal aspect of the path by Lama Tsongkhapa, right from the beginning of his teachings, that the cultivation of renunciation, where he talks about the requirement of day and night, of having a motivation of achieving liberations. It says a day and a night, which means you have to put in effort, day and a night, constant effort. Then one will be able to perfect one's practice of renunciations. Similarly, bodhicitta requires a lot of, practices, rigorous practices, and meditations particularly. And then, suddenly, when it comes to the practice of emptiness, meditation and emptiness, it requires a rigorous practice of meditations and consistent meditation on emptiness. Just by reading and thinking about this will be the emptiness, that will be the emptiness, if a lack of inherent existence, by reading that will not enable one to achieve wisdom realizing emptiness. Not at all. You may have intellectually understand what is emptiness means, but you are not actually gaining a wisdom that understands that which realizes emptiness. So therefore, it requires a constant meditation on emptiness, and it is through constant meditation on emptiness, and at some point, one will then be able to gain realization of emptiness, conceptual realization of emptiness, in other words, which understands, which realizes emptiness through generic image. And it is through this kind of realizations, conceptual understanding, conceptual realization of understanding of emptiness, when one sustains this meditations of conceptual understanding of emptiness, will then finally be able to lead oneself to attain wisdom, the realizing emptiness, the directly realizing wisdom, directly realizing emptiness. So this is how we need to, put an effort, constant effort, without losing hope, and meditate and familiarize oneself with those teachings and so on, be able to do that. Otherwise, we are, at this point in the as an initial practitioner, it is very hard for us to even to focus on one object of meditations for even a couple of minutes, because our mind is very much, remaining under the power of this mental wandering or agitations, and that agitates and it wanders. Our mind is wandering everywhere. Even though that one may is reciting something, one may is, counting one's, rosaries or the malas and reciting some mantras and so on, but one's mind is wandering everywhere, and actually is touring all around the world. So this is, in order to tame that kind of mind, the wandering mind, one need to adopt the single pointed meditations. Even for the renunciation requires single pointed meditations, and similarly bodhicitta, and suddenly wisdom and emptiness requires a single pointed meditation.
제가 냐바샤라 튼자시스 제가 냐바샤바라 좀 제와이나 냐바샤베 부드러고 좋다 냐바샤바라 때는 리뷰도 좋아 가려였어라와이나 다는데 소샤 냐바샤베 리뷰는 녀모바 장바 마도바 제가 매배 디처스 제가 다는 그래 냠바샤라 굉장히 냠바샤니 소소는 또 나바샤그 다다로 왔다 지금도 가리요나 란주가 녀모 바데 매바서야 그것도 테마도 요마레스 제가 제다다 트레이딩 잔이 저지 차트 페퍼도 뭐 보여 버리 이내고 냠바샤 샤비 그대로 또 다도 지금도 거데 란주가 녀모도 매바서야 지더레스 또
So in this context, when we talk about meditative equipoise, is this meditative equipoise is directed towards uh, elimination of our delusions or reflections. There might be there are many other single point meditations and meditative equipoise. But in this context, the meditative equipoise must be understood in the context of eliminating our delusions, because our result or the objective of this meditative equipoise or single-pointed constitutions is towards elimination of delusions or reflections.
드네이 드르르와 추세야 또 규지다야 대 규지다야 주 령아 예선은 또 아니 이게 생 규지다야 생주와 따는 아니 령아니 대셔 건조가 된 거야지 자 대주와 따와라 아니 주와 따다게 따로 따는데 여기 시고 대시어는 투어라 아니 투비네 그래야 강에서 돈을 제고 저번에 제고 오여봐 제가 단대인데 대가에 두바지야 돼야 나가 생주 좋아다고 시바대야 생주 좋아다고 시바 대시바 나시기 그냥 봐셔야 돼야 엔티 권이 공배다야 기체다 어디네 이제 냠바셔ben 집에 대다 생주 좋아테니 나랑 줄여 돼야 되니 녀모도송 대에는 러치로 이바 뭐 트레니 인데도 파 빠서래 제가 대다가 녀볼로 야다바 제니 엔데다바 메바 참고해지로 제가 녀모 번장와 녀모데 다 컨트롤이나 대샤이나 다성화된 녀모들 자녀들은 니니니시 이 자녀들은 대샤다 컨트롤 자녀들은 나세래 제가 저도 밤에 참고해서 단념바셔야 되는 거 그래서 메바 차례 제가 라디오 녀모데 밤에 참고이나 아니 녀모 왕기 아니 자왕이 받아 당 말해서 녀모왕이 자왕이 받아 맞잖아 아니 라디오야 자왕이 하고 지금 동행이 오고 말해서 오다 모르도록 동행도 많이 되는 무슨 거에 들어가다 뭐로 뭐에 되지다 뭐가 동행 들어가 제가 모르는 뭐가 돼 아니 내가 또 내가 어떻게 살아
So here, because when we talk about practicing Dharma in Chui, in Tibetan, which is translated original term from Dharma, and the Sanskrit word Dharma, and sometimes it is I think in the Pali is called Dhamma, and so on. But what the Dharma or Chui really means, Dharma and Chui is something that to modify or to transform or to change. And what kind of transformation here we're talking about? The transformation of one's mind. And if one's able to transform one's mind, and then transformation of actions of the body and speech is not that hard. In fact, it's by means of transforming one's mind that actions of the body and speech will be transformed as byproduct. So it doesn't require much, efforts to do that. So if one is able to, transform one's mind, so then here, in order to transform one's mind, one should know how to transform one's mind. In order to understand transform one's mind, then one should listen to the teachings of the Dharma from the teacher who himself has transformed his or her mind and who has his peak instructions, the instruction that can be presented to the practitioners or the followers. And that requires, again, patience. Patience is needed for listening to the teachings. So, in so if one has this teachings received and then followed all those instructions or meditations, and then one's meditations, the result of meditations should be elimination of our affections or our. It's not something that we should look for something, some other things, but one should targeting one's meditation should targeting towards elimination of those three poisons of the mind, and understanding those mind that is derived from the delusions are erroneous mind, which need to be gotten rid from one's own mind stem, one's own stem of beings, and such as erroneous thoughts such as anger, hatred, attachment, and so on. All those are the 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 delusion that belongs to the root delusions or the root affections, and are primarily six root delusions, and so once in brief, that one's very practice of the Dharma is to transform one's mind. Transforming one's mind is coming into being from one's listening to the teachings with the patience, and this leads oneself to the meditative, uh, uh, leads oneself to meditative equipoise, in other words, meditative equipoise on the ultimate nature of reality, which then becomes a very realization of this ultimate nature of reality becomes antidote towards one's own negative thoughts and emotions, such as delusions and so on, will then enables one to attain liberations or finally to the state of enlightenment.
그것을 좋아해 나게.
Any questions? If not, he will continue. Yes.
Uh, I went over the three tolerances or the three patience.
Uh-huh.
And in Sanskrit, they say that there's the verbal tolerance, the conforming tolerance, and the true tolerance. In English, anyway. And the verbal tolerance is I think it's based on the inconceivability of the tolerance, not being able to grasp something that can't be grasped, And then there's the conforming tolerance, which is sort of, I think that's more the unconditional acceptance. And then the true tolerance is birthlessness, which is a sense of not being able to tolerate the inconceivability of birth.
It's a Dharma.
Yeah.
The reflecting on Dharma.
Yeah.
Patience to reflect on
And
Dharma.
I just wonder how that relates to I'm trying to correlate them with the three that Geshe has just conveyed to us. So I was just wondering, does the order matter?
How do they relate to each other?
Well, yes, but
Okay.
also the order of them, and not only their interrelatedness, but their order of how.
These three patients are in English as translated in this particular text, this 178.
Yeah.
So patience, endurance, and accepting pain, which is which means it's Tibetan, it's actually voluntarily accepting pain in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Voluntarily accepting, and then the patience reflecting on the Dharma. So this,
Yes.
and then the patience, endurance, and forgiving harm inflicted by others,
Right.
which is not retaliation. So
That's
it's
indifference.
yeah.
Ms. Holiness said, I was listening to a teaching today, she said that it was indifference because sometimes that there is a retaliate. I mean, there is times when you can retaliate, in order to prevent something
Yeah, that's-
negative from happening.
That's the Bodhisattva's practice. There is, in fact, not only retaliation, you should take firm stand.
Yeah.
Firm stand. This is what it's called, firm stand with a good motivation. Here again,
Yes,
it's not
exactly.
retaliating
Exactly.
that I wanted to get, smash that guy. He did this and this. Not that kind of stuff, but rather, it's, firm stand so that other person will not engage in such a,
Wake up.
indulge in such a
Yeah.
actions that is harmful to himself or others.
Yeah.
And those are required. Yeah, that's true. 이게 나 그런 그 디레션. 근데 대날 산스크리트 날 직대에서 근데 산스크리트 날 텐데지 독서 근데 세베이 디날이야. 마기 서비스에 텐데지. 텐데지 독서. 대 단데 서비스um 가나 되고나. 마기 서비스 하듯이. 근데 독서. 근데네 단데 가서다 내내 미제지 방안도 단데 서버직 단데 신배 내배 개변의 소리한테 내미제지 디직도 되냐 리처리아 단데야 같이 즉 바조기 가서 신배에게 지금 마에 맞선배 직자월 소소 정배나 야 될이야 돈은 제 뭐에 용거 봤어 돈은 제 고르세요 근데 다 군대 송지라고 되네 나래 그러면 돈 요한데 쓰도 고한데 쓰도 이제나 근데 딱 파저기 마에 맞선비 자와디 점에 잠샤야 싫다 고들이 미제 수정원이 군노 약을 계시지 이 돈은 제가 약을 시타비시 약을 진짜 시베는데 이 파저리야 먼저 이제 랜로버 점레마도 이게 다시 내야 되는 게 말아봤을 때 이게 관세 시비 이제 기사티 가서해나
동보지 마음에서 가서더라.
어
그 동에서 가만 되고 있었어. 마음이 서버셔야 돼. 또 좋아 마음이 서버셔야 되는데 진짜 서버성에단 마음이 서버스네 고지도 요르디. 또 서버성도 상보 난게 생각이 자고 있지. 생각보다 이 시도니 자고 있지. 맞아. 이나요. 전에 얘기 저배 대단 되니 얘기랑 저배 맞으면 받더래 소소를 나오는 봐. 대야 그래로 봐서 그래 갈로.
no
다 지금 두자 나오는데 다들 두자를 해줘요. 자상 મને જબરદસ્ત એક દીની 그래서 두자를 해야 되는 것들 봐. મળ을 산이 때려 동동이게 예지시가 길어서 봐서 그러와. 이나 드네지기 얘기 돈에 드네 동시에 맞도는 나는데 소두자를 받으려 주셔서 마이나 다 나우토니 저같이 맞도 받는 거지. 차고로 와. 다다 나우토니 봐서야 돼.
so
아들이
here,
되게 지나지라요 말이죠. 저passon데 이시든 샤워.
so here also the patients it may have a different names in it as a different practice of patients not retaliating and patient reflecting on dharma and so on and so forth. But if you essentialize what this patient really means, is patient is something that mentally acceptance, that you don't get yourself distracted by others' action. That is the main thing. Or you are not actually getting annoyed and you are not getting, uncontrollable in any situation. It is mostly to do with the mind. Of course, there are verbal patients. There are verbal patients because if someone says something bad about oneself, someone, say all kind of nonsense, and then one is not actually, replying accordingly, and try not to say the bad things, you're supposed to say because somebody is saying to you in our day-to-day life,
In ordinary.
but in ordinary world.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to. But then if one wants to refrain oneself from saying that, and then go, well, he or she is saying these things to me, but I must not say accordingly. I must not reply accordingly, and that is a verbal, practice of tolerance, verbal tolerance. But however, again here, even though you're not saying bad things to the person, you're not physically retaliating, as long as your mind becomes agitated,
Yeah.
become angry, and anger is generated inside, and you're not actually having patience, you're not actually practicing patience. It is all about the mind, that even if you are, as we talked ever earlier, that as some bodhisattva practice, it requires, uh, you know, very actively, firm stand when someone inflicts harm upon oneself and something that is injustice done to us. When doing that, making sure that your mind is so stable, your mind is very calm and stable, and with a very good motivation,
Right.
and so that you can, prevent that person from indulging in such, actions in the future.
얘네가 무슨 아주 지속 시간으로 이제 그날 두자들 넣었을 때 메달이 콜파테 두었게 라면 무슨 바 공샤였네. 대신 요리로 와. 얘네 오늘 쌤은 나리야 반 뇌스를 비치면은 무슨 바래데. 쌤은 나리야 두린 메시지 되네. 카드마다 잠지 되네게 무슨 바 공샤였으면 요리로. 다제 주바데 제가 다 마고 잡았으니 차고 얼마. 얘는 나를 다 거래야. 뇌스를 제자.
Sometimes people complain by saying that, well, today I had somebody just confronted me there and said all kind of bad things to me. But inside I got very, very angry, but I was able to maintain my patience, not saying anything to them, which is also actually a form of patient, but it's not a real patient practice because he or she is very angry at that time. Mind is already distracted, already agitated, and becomes so angry. It is just not saying anything bad, not replying or verbalizing anything that is inappropriate. But so long as mind is concerned, his mind is completely distracted. That is not a genuine practice.
Right.
But at least there is some benefit because
Some
you are not
suppression,
saying,
some
you're able
suppressing.
to you're able to suppress your own negative speech, so that will again, prevent from further argument or further, undesirable circumstances, undesirable events will be prevented by doing that. But it is not actually a genuine practice of patience.
이네 된다비디 바로 보고 아니 두자들 나온데서 뭐 코로지 찌와 있네야 기진이가 되네야 뭐걸 두어도 멀었 사비 동세대 고양 기진이발에 용투가 그 나준 더 나는 지금 저에 코리 댕에 되는 용투로 저 기지 담벌 바로 보고 두자 나온데서 아니 코로 있는 기진이가 되야 와다는 걸 두어도 달래로 먹지 유셔스네 그것도 나와야 되는데 또 막에 너야 돼 얘기听懂有个的他这个界面哪能的个嘛就没得来么个强了那有的他马给那我送的马给人家没得马上吧张个有问题啊这类就都不要了
So sometimes, when someone has done injustice to one, or someone says something bad about something that is using all those, derogatory words towards you, and you become angry right immediately. But at the moment, as a practitioner, if one is able to remind oneself, this is not right, well, this person is saying something bad to me, and why should I get angry?
Why should I
Yeah,
go
why
to
should
the
I
stoop
go
to
to-
their
yeah.
level, or why should
And
I go
don't-
down that road? Yeah.
Why should I, provide more fuel to that?
Yeah, yeah.
And I shouldn't do that. And then this will really suppress your mind, and then even lessen your anger. At some point, it will not generate anger at all, but it helps. In the beginning you got angry, but then when you think about that, this is not right, and then it really cools your mind.
Tene tere mago ziba tene taa chile te ziba son kaa ndio na chadang ziba son gaa ske chagu mara chadang no ma ye ho de sambo jimanda je tene yor mata ya na be san gaa yi go ke mata ina tanda ge de kurka to ndio che yin de ye ye ni ba che mara che na be ziba kur de na ate rin shu be do.
So this verbal tolerance can be, you know, belongs to the category of not retaliating,
Not
not retaliating
Yeah.
to
Yes.
inflict some, not retaliating. So that's, although we see three different divisions of the practice of this tolerance in all those teachings that we always find these three teachings, three divisions of the tolerance, but they are not in among themselves. They are not contradictory to each other.
Right.
It's not something that one can be other can be one too.
Yeah.
But they have certain
Kind of
divisions.
like,
Yeah,
kind of like the patient,
Yeah.
perfections
Yeah.
of each one.
that's right. That's right.
And this, it said, also, the last thing I wanted to mention is that it said the difficulty of attaining this the tolerance only occurs on the eighth bhumi. At least from
Yeah.
the reading that I.
the survey nyamlen su touching the for pages na de sa gebal le come to survey nyamlen ta the talk maybe so in this so just this one
Ziba nale.
oh sa geba touching segment da the survey patient ya sa geba can ma da le ma wala
zibi nale dang, zibi pachin, tani de dabo chiba chiya chero. Ta zibi nale ta chimba siya dang, zibi pati chimba siya ni chiba che. Ta de zibi nale ta chimba, zibi nale ta chimba dang, zibi pati chimba siya ni. Peche chiba shana de jere.
that's all.
Zibi nale ta chimba ina, sanje sare, zibi pati chimba chimba na, sanje tagre. Tene che te da sanji gyur ma to sanji ne ma to zebi nyale ta chi ma da zebi par chi ma te me sanji da ko shi da ji zebi nyale se de ada lo lang se re da ka lama shu ni ane sanji da zebi nyale se re che da juda ba ke se ne ro sanji te be kare zibe nyale ke che ma ta che da wa che da zibe nyale de ene lama shune juda ba de chan de res.
So the perfection of the patience or the tolerance can only be possessed and achieved by someone who is enlightened, as someone who is enlightened, right? As someone who become a Buddha, in other words. Only the Buddha possesses this perfection of patience. The practice of perfection, the practice of perfection with tolerance, the practice of tolerance can be practiced from from the beginning, the initial practitioners, and all the way to Kunta, which is the last stage of Bodhisattva's Bhumi, which means the very next you will be enlightened. So the practice will be carried out. But then even at the last stage of the Bodhisattvas, the practice of perfection of tolerance is not achieved. It is only when the last stage of Bodhisattvas transcend from that to the state of Buddhahood, then only the perfection of wisdom.
So it's only a practice then,
Yeah.
even
Practice can be done.
I see,
Yeah,
yes.
that's
Okay,
right.
Thank you. That's great.
이거 전혀 다르다. 되게 나가서 봐대. 또 가는 진짜 지스만.
쟤는 그렇죠. 이슈생이니까.
아, 맞아.
Should we say the dedication prayers?
과연
Okay.
다르나?
처음에 다시 몸은 되잡았어.
내가 특별히 뭐나 아무도 데려다 와. 주바세야디 당하는 소리 가면 뭐 용도라. 소내나 저기 집에 세네야 슈바도 왔다. 안 세면 저와도 왔다. 되는 뭐 용도. 네요. 시행을 안에 저왕에 봐. 담배왕게 양소소리에 지샘 맞춰봐도 왔다. 세바 추디야서는 왔다. 되는 용도. 제가 단지 소리 동네데 무슨 제바도 표시 당을 드린다는 표시 당하고요. 저스바는 표시 당을 단들에 사람 간다고 균균의 소나시 가디 주스요는 인터넷에 지지요 사나시 소소리야 내나서 되게 포함이 소소리야 샘 매저와는 내가 강의 주지 못하는 소소 당한 내나서 포함 단데 샘시라 초대가 기만도 다음 매주 있잖아요 주도에는 당이 대주야도를 배제잖아요 주샤고 사연을 들려야지 생리다 스페셜 먹어야지 다기에서 주요 명예로 지내 다들 생리지는 변덕해마다 그 주요 명예 집에 춘일에서 들어가서 상담에 또 생각마시대 소야 메시지 양수도 뭐게 레상다 다소소다다 내나자다 아니 얘기 저한테 뭐 담배 랑지 세메조는 좋은 소리 다 뭐게 소소하게 사슴에 랭네 미긴 되는데 일단은 챈들 매와 이발에서 대나무게 이해를 가되잖아요. 고생 투어는 먹어야지. 그래서 뭐게 소소 내사게 랭네 되게 되는 거 되잖아요. 근데 랭네 되게 챈들 매받아. 야고 줘서 야 대게다 소동나사게 랭네 받으면 대고쇼쇼서 양소소만 증명을 거지. 고쇼소만 되나서 안다나요? 그래서 sempre 도와서만 잘 봐야 돼. 강에만 또 치료해야 되는 용도와
So
저한테 이상으로 그 생각하는 때에 그 지진 담을 못 하는 때에서 뭐 근데 그때한테 되려서 주제도 참 근데 건지대서 한다. 알아서서 생각만 또 레레서 되게 메시지고요. 다들 거기 가르쳐 먹는 세배시원도 참 뜻을 파는 거네.
So we have we come across with all kind of situations, or favorable situation, unfavorable situations. There are good situations, bad situations, positive, negative, and so on. All the situations, regardless of what kind of situation it may come across, one should always prepare to handle those situations. As a practitioner, this should be done prior to coming across with such situation. This should be done, the practice should be done, the preparation should be done prior to this actual coming across with the situation. Because without having prepared, then when you come across with the situation, it becomes uncontrollable and become so unhappy. For instance, we all, as ordinary beings, our body is composed of, flesh, blood, bones, and so on. And this, is bound to undergo all kind of problems. We face all kind of problems, such as sickness and all. And we should understand this body is not something that is, it is not it's not adamant, and it can be destroyed. It can be, something may happen to our body, such as illness and so on. When that happens, and I should practice my tolerance by reflecting on mind on the teachings of the or the guide to the verse of the Lord Shantideva, where it says that there is a solution. What is the point of being unhappy? What is the point of unhappiness? If there's no solution, then what is the point of what is the benefit of being unhappy and so on? So let's think about all this. And even when someone inflict harm upon oneself, one should think in that way. It's a very, 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 very helpful. And for instance, if one undergoes some kind of suffering, so even if someone inflict harm upon one, or done if someone's injustice done to oneself, or if one's undergo some kind of sicknesses, the best thing that you should think about is my karma. I may have done something that is in my past, and now I'm paying the retribution of this. My karma is ripening, and it is such a wonderful opportunity that this karma is wrapping up on me at this point. And may this, the experiencing of this karmic result be substitute for the suffering of all other beings. And this kind of practice will really broaden our mind, and then our problems will become very small to us. And you will be able to see a difference, big difference, if one is just not retaliating verbally or physically and you get angry, and the one that you are actually accepting it and taking it into, and not only that, you are actually transforming that circumstances into a practice of Dharma. It's very, very good.
So do this dedication prayer beginning on page 23 and 24, continuing with auspicious wishes, and on page 28. Dagi jine sarpe ke vadi
Tena roa gola gobedan, chevara juse rosa travai, teme nivo lendo skajeyo.
saji koki
Kashe medo tan, jara leje nyede jevade, sanje jindo mide kuvaye, ragwe namda yina shevara yo.
kewa kundu
Yanda lama dan, jame chuje bela mujuje, sada lamje yede razone, raje jage babanye dojo.
idam guru
Pranamanda lagone yame.
chetsun mame
Kwasera deje nagatene chojo jivada, prasa tembe drume sasonji, prave mese tato ne juruji.
kami rewe kowe
Shikasu beda dewa mane jumene, chere sewa tete jandoye, yabe sete pado ten juruji.
jabel pawo
Cheta cheba na kudu sambo tenya tejete, teta kunje jesu daluche, kewa teta tamche rato ku, teso jibe kewa tamche ki, mawa kala choto ngapati, dage kiwe tsawa dike, sambo jeje rato mawa ji.
Always